2. Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. It has been a little while since I caught up with this guy. I mean, not so far back as Tiger Woods and winning the Masters and early majors this year and all that stuff, but he has buckets and birds out on Twitter. He is our pal at Compass Point Golf and doing all sorts of holiday-oriented stuff down there with turkey shoots and whatnot. But he came to me originally as the college basketball insider here at WNST.net, and it is college basketball season. Robert Canady joins us, the originator of Buckets and Birds, and if you find him at Towson or Loyola or UMBC or Morgan or Coppin or anywhere around here, Navy, sometimes even down at College Park, it is your favorite time of the year. You're putting miles on the wheels and hoping for not a lot of traffic on the way to College Park, right, Rob?
Exactly. I was looking at those, putting the dots on the schedules, deciding, especially the night last Tuesday night when we had opening night for the season, and multiple games in the area that could have been chosen and everything. I actually ended up going out to Towson, which is a very good George Washington Towson game, as it ended up being.
By the way, we carried the Coppin Rider game. Coppin lost 91-84. Good game.
They had a home game as well. Yeah, for the first time.
Playing at Virginia Tech on Friday night as well. So you can hear the WNST Coppin partnership now in year 4 of our relationship. We would encourage everybody to support us at Coppin State Sports as well. I'll be having the coach on as well. I saw Juan a couple weeks ago at the kickoff. So but for you at Towson, you're bullish on Towson this year, aren't you?
I am, more so than the last time we spoke on Tuesday night. Tuesday was my first chance to see him. I hadn't been out to a practice or anything. I had spoken to Pat Scarry at the media kickoff day, but I really didn't know what to expect. But it's just one game of 28 more to come, regular season. But it was an entirely different looking team than last year. Last year he had 10 new faces, and I don't think they ever really achieved any continuity. They have their top 3 returning scorers, plus some really, for the first time since I've been covering them, they have a talented point guard freshman coming in that can handle the ball, that can shoot, and that was Jason Gibson, a local guy from Severna Park, I believe, and he did really well for a freshman, and they had another freshman, Charles Thompson, that did well. So.
Well, then my question would say, how good is GW, right? I mean, Towson really put it on them, and I don't know what it means. I know it's good. It's a good thing when you win. Certainly, Pat's been on the other end of that, and when you schedule GW in the beginning, you think, well, that's a game they're probably going to win, not us. But maybe Towson's on to something. I tell you what, Alan Bertrand, right? I mean, that's
right.
That's a name that it's early November, and when you're winning this kind of a game, this kind of puts Pat Scarry on the map early.
Yeah, I mean, he was a returning. He was a freshman last year, and you say you like to hope that your freshmen take a big leap between your freshman and sophomore year, and again, for one game he did. He really looked the part that he grew and learned a lot. But going back to the GW comment, I mean. Yeah, they're an Atlantic 10 team. That's a conference above the CAA, to be fair about it. Now they're picked to finish the middle to the lower third of that conference, but still, it's a conference Atlantic 10 that gets people's attentions when you think of VCU and Mason and Rhode Island and those teams, and so definitely a good win for them to get at home to start the season, and we'll see where they go from here. UMBC and Maryland both have good wins at home as well in different ways. So
even Loyola sort of got on the map against Marquette, right? They lost big, but we're not seeing. And I know we talked about this a couple weeks ago. Last time we got together, really right after the media day event. Now that we're actually playing basketball and we're into this sort of the schedule of things. It is different in November, dude. I mean, this is 28, 29 years of radio for me. Obviously, I've been at this since '84 as a media member. Knowing Fang Mitchell, the deep deep relationship I had with Terry Truax through the years and all the coaches that have been through here, there were always these money games, and Juan had this a couple years ago when he took over at Copp, and a lot of that's kind of going away. That Fang Mitchell, we're going to go out to Oklahoma and Wyoming and UNLV and Arizona. We're going to go play Lute Olson. We're going to go play everybody. That's all. There's not as much of that, and certainly for Maryland running around doing Puerto Rico and Alaska and Cancun and Lord knows whatever else in the Gary era, there's less of that. There's just less of almost everything from what my eyes can see just looking at the schedule, Rob.
Yeah, there definitely is a shift, I think, from those, the money games, for a few reasons. One, all it takes is for, even though it didn't happen, but it takes for one Loyola to beat one Marquette. So wait a minute, you didn't hold up your into the guarantee game. We guaranteed you money, you guarantee us a win, type of thing. And then these holiday tournaments. It used to be just, the top 20 or so when they first started popping up, 5 to 10 years ago. Pretty much just the premier teams you saw. But, now the mid-majors are getting involved in them. They're getting, with all the different television coverages, and all the different networks and everything.
Well, the Big Ten ACC and the coaches versus this. But now that we've added so many conference games, right, from a Maryland perspective, Big Ten-wise, and the early games, it really has said, look, if you're going to play big games, play them against each other and do it in December, right? Like, that was sort of the way this went down a couple of years ago to make the Big Ten network more whole, I think, too.
Exactly, and then you get into as far as the strength of scheduling, when it comes down to those selections in March, who did you play in your non-conference? Did you play 12 pancake universities, or did you actually schedule some tough non-conference games, away from home, or have someone tough come in to play you at home? So,
Maryland would have to answer for that, right? Like, Maryland has, let's see, George Mason, Temple, Notre Dame, Illinois and Penn State, obviously, in conference. Seton Hall would be the big Fox Sports 1 game. That's the 19th of December, and Seton Hall's ranked. And then it's just, Bryant,
right.
And then it's just straight up every Indiana, Ohio State, Iowa, Wisconsin. I mean, that there's no Duke on here. There's no UCLA on here, right? I mean, there's no flying around and we're going to play a 3-team tussle anywhere and maybe have a chance to play Duke or whatever. All that's kind of gone away, and I guess that'll put more of a focus on the conference games, which is what they want to do anyway.
Right, and in Maryland, and I think we spoke about this early in the season when schedules first came out. At least I felt they upped their non-conference schedule a little bit. There is no merit. I mean, yeah, sure, there's the Oakland on there and the Fairfields and everything, but just one or two of them. Then they throw in the Rhode Islands and Mason for the local and a Notre Dame. So they definitely upped it. I think the non-conference schedule for. One, they're getting more at home, and they're, like you said, they're not traveling around to as many tournaments. They've got the Orlando Invitational that they'll be going to. They've got the Big Ten ACC with Notre Dame, which will be at home.
But obviously, there's no more Towson. There's no more UMBC. There's no more UMES. There's no, not even Salisbury.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
That's a shame. I'll just say that's a shame. I don't, hell if I ever know the politics. I mean, I'm still trying to figure out that Navy-Maryland war from 1963 or whatever it was, right? That, 40 years later we're all trying to understand. But that is disappointing, right? I mean, for those of us that love Beltway basketball around here. And that would go for Georgetown and GW. And, obviously Towson scheduling GW is a cool game. It turned out to be a pretty cool game on Tuesday night for anybody out there. But, as a local guy, I like...
We'll go down to Georgetown later in the non-conference.
Fair enough. I love when Maryland plays Coppin. That's good.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's, your more Beltway-centric, game and everything versus, going down to the Verizon Center or something like that. But, it's a shame.
Or Juan taking the Eagles to Missoula, Montana on the 29th, which he's doing, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. So, that was something, I spent some time talking to a few of the local coaches at that media day about the local games, and, they're all going to say the right thing. They all profess to love to play the local teams. They think it's great for the area, but when it comes to scheduling either, even a local tournament with, bringing in 4 of them over a 2-night period or, 6 over a 3-day period or something, they just say, well, logistically it's tough to coordinate that, and it's probably as much as we'd like it to happen, it's probably not going to happen in this day and age and everything of scheduling. So that is a shame. I think, something like that, if you were able to get Maryland and UMBC and Towson and Navy all in the same gym for the same weekend, that would be, such an incredible draw, throwing Coppin as well or Loyola. So, but, we take what we have now, and I'm just happy to be watching a lot of good hoops, this season getting ready to kick off this week. It's been great.
Towson had the big win on Tuesday night over GW Allen Betrand, correct?
Betran, technically.
Betran.
Yeah, Betran. Yep.
I just want to make sure that we're getting it all right because they're all new names to me, right? I mean,
hey, they're new. Yeah, a lot of them are new to me as well.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
You start looking at that UMBC roster.
Well, I mean, just on Towson, they play at Florida next week, and then they play Xavier as well. There are a couple pretty big games on their schedule coming up, maybe much more so than even Maryland, right?
Yeah, I mean, Pat talked about that after the Tuesday night game that he scheduled aggressively this year. He felt with the team being a little bit more experienced, and he had some opportunities to go play at Florida, and then they turn around and they play in the tournament down in Charleston, where they could see Florida again if things fall right. They could end up seeing them twice within the week, but they definitely kicked that off with Xavier, a top 20 team right now, and then a possibility matchup against UConn. So he did not take the easy road. They've got a Friday night coming up. They've got one of those Division 3 games, that just kind of seem to fill in the schedule. There's one of those on everyone's. So that should be another warm up and everything before they really good home game next Monday night against Kent State, out of Ohio. So that's they come from a good MAC conference and everything. That'll be a good test. May not be a name that a lot of people around here are familiar with, but that actually could turn out to be a very good game as well next Monday against Kent State.
UMBC, they go to LSU later on in the month. They got Florida Gulf Coast as well. I'll get a little sunshine trip in there, for Coach Odom. But expectations for them, I think they're always higher now that the building is where it is. And you mentioned they're going down to Georgetown and George Mason and playing in December time. And he's more taking on the local schedule, right? He's got Towson, he's got Coppin. He's keeping the team local a little bit after running around. And I know for sure a lot of teams don't want to take on UMBC after you do what nobody else has ever done, right?
Right, and Ryan has mentioned that's been a challenge, the last 2 years as far as scheduling, and this year he was really struggling to fill out the schedule up until about 2 or 3 weeks ago. He had an opening that he needed to fill, so it's not like teams were lining up to play him, so that'll be a good early test, down at LSU. And, like I said, then they'll be playing Mason and Georgetown as well. So an opportunity to make a name locally here, and down in the D.C. area to make their name well. And, I don't know how much they're going to gain from them beating Valley Forge by 88 like they did Tuesday night, other than to see the guys that will probably not see the floor again for a while getting, substantial minutes. But what was even impressive about that game is they didn't play their top 3 starters from last year. And, Arkel Lamar and Jackson and one other one that Idle Rock, the guards from last year. So the top 3 returning players didn't play, and yet they still put up, 134 points on the board. So, it'll be interesting to see how that, how they shake out. I don't think we really learned much about them Tuesday night, so still more to be seen there. At Florida Gulf Coast will be a tough game. Florida Gulf Coast came up here last year and beat them in a really, really good close game and everything. So it'll be a few games before we know much about them.
Biggest game on the schedule this week will be Saturday night. Kind of weird Saturday night, 9 o'clock at night, right? These big, who knows? Rhode Island and the Terps getting together down in College Park. Kids are on campus, right? I mean, that's one of the issues that happens around December 7th, 10th, Illinois, Penn State. The kids are off campus and things are weird. I would think it could get rocking there on a Saturday night, right?
Yeah, you would think so. There shouldn't be any traffic issues at 9 o'clock on a Saturday night, getting there. But I guess that must be the second part of the doubleheader. I think it's on FS1, so I think that must be the reason for the scheduling there for that time.
But competitive basketball game. I mean, we're going to learn a little bit. Like, I'm going to put it on and say, all right, this may be a little bit more what we're going to see than, to your point, where you're sort of unloading the bench against Holy Cross and, Oakland and Fairfield and, Bryant. I mean, they got 3 or 4 cupcakes, but as we talked about, there aren't a whole lot of cupcakes on the schedule, and I don't consider Rhode Island to be a team that's just going to roll in here and lose by 30 points.
No, not by any means. We mentioned the A-10 conference, and they're perennially at the top there, and that'll be a good early season test, and it'll be one that like I said, if the Maryland guys were feeling themselves after the easy win at Holy Cross, that should be one that will get their attention. Sometimes those games have a way early on of especially before you realize that you're in a game and you need to kick into gear, and that actually happened a little bit in the Holy Cross game as well. Holy Cross I think got an early lead and everything, and then of course Maryland's talent just too big, too strong, too fast took over for them, but. Yeah, definitely. That's a good early season game that'll be fun to watch.
Didn't they lose a game to like St. Bonaventure or like one of those teams in the last couple of years early on?
Yeah, you're right. I think it was last year, early December to I think it actually was St. Bonaventure. If it wasn't someone like them, it might have actually been St. Bonaventure, and it was that first week of December, and the exact type of thing where, again, early season probably came off win over someone easy, and before they fell behind and couldn't catch up, and Maryland had a lot of those games last year. Even though they ended up making it to the Sweet 16 and got things kind of rolling toward the end, going into the tournament, they had a lot of games early where they were just letting teams stay with them that shouldn't, and it came back.
Well, 'tis the season, though, right? I mean, 'tis the season for upsets and who are you and Towson, beating up on GW and whatever. That I think makes it so exciting for people to love basketball, or you wait for basketball season. This is almost more interesting to me than the middle of January, where you get good teams together and the losses, you don't feel them so much. You just say, well, all right, we're going to be a tournament team, or we're not, or we're on the bubble, right? But this is the early part where you get that feeling out part where you're like, hey, I like that ball player, because everything's so new. I mean, the players don't stay long enough. Most people in my audience don't even know who's on the floor for the Terps, so tuning in on Saturday night allows you to get reacquainted with the guys that you know, and, hey, who's that kid? And, oh, that other guy graduated. Yeah, is he playing in the NBA? I don't know. Is he playing in Europe? That's what you do this time of year, I think.
Right, yeah. That's a good point, versus, like, February 26th when they go to at Minnesota. By then, like you said, by then we'll pretty much know. That'll be a Wednesday night in the middle of the cold, dead winter, and by then we pretty much are counting down the start to the tournament in a few weeks and everything. And they are who they are by then, as one coach, football coach, said at one point. And right now we're still finding out if these freshmen can play. If Jalen Smith is going to take that big leap as a sophomore and become a dominant player in the conference. And there
should be enthusiasm for them, right? Like, I look down and see Cowan, Ayala, Wiggins, Smith. I'm thinking, Morcell. I'm familiar with all these guys, and they should be a year better and, playing together for long stretches here. This should be the time that Cowan flourishes and they take it to the promised land, right? But all of that is these nights where they get on planes and go to Iowa and Minnesota in January and February ahead. But this Saturday night's a nice test for them. It really is. I mean, early on when I said you're not going to see Duke and Virginia this year, this is nice. If they win on Saturday night, I think we'll see a full effort. It won't look like emptying the bench this weekend.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like I said, all those players you mentioned, that the freshmen from last year, the Ayalas and the Wiggins and the Smiths. Good to see them, taking their step forward. Then you've got the two Mitchell twins, a highly recruited freshman this year coming in. So we'll probably they both again had some showing. I think got 10 or 15 minutes, something like that, against Holy Cross. But we'll see if they're in there when it matters in the second half against Rhode Island and how they perform at that point. So it'll be the first early season chance to see how they do in that atmosphere. So a lot to look forward to Saturday night. I don't know if I'll be making it down there to College Park. I'm going to try, but don't know if I can stay up at midnight these nights, at this time early in the season. I haven't worked up to it.
Got to get your beauty rest after all that Washington National celebrating and all that stuff going on. Robert Canady joining us here for Compass Point. We talk the college hoops. We also talk some golf around here as well. What's going on at Compass Point, man? You guys got the turkey shoot thing going on, and the weather's changing, to say the least. But I know some of you love to go out there and hit it when it's 51, man.
Oh yeah, it's we definitely do. This past Monday, I came back from San Diego where it was 75 and sunny, and I came back and it's a little bit of a chilly weather, not real cold, but a little chilly here. And Monday, we had a full course out there of people playing, and had to double check the calendar to make sure it wasn't a holiday or something, wondering where everyone came from. So everyone's they're still trying to get in. We probably have a month left of decent golf weather, where it stays in the 50s, and if it's not too bad. But yeah, we have our big turkey shoot to kind of wrap up the season the Friday after Thanksgiving, and that's always one of our more popular events of the year, especially kind of since it's toward the end. And
does that include pumpkin pie or yes?
Yeah, we do. We do the turkey, and we do pumpkin pie, and some beverages, of course, and everything. So it's a great event, a fun time. It's a 2-man team, so you can call your best buddy. And
what the hell else are you going to do on Black Friday other than go shopping, right? You can do that online. Exactly. You can shop online while you're having a beverage right there after you roll out 18, right?
There you go. Just Amazon.com and order your gifts and then go hit your tee shot, right? Yeah. So we should probably work that into our marketing plan for it or something. That's a good idea.
Robert Canady joining us here. He's Buckets and Birds. We talk college basketball. He talks golf. We get together once a week or thereabouts and do that. Hey, enjoy the hoops this week. We'll get together again next week, all right?
Yeah, we'll have a full week of games to talk about, so I appreciate it, and we'll talk to you then, Nestor.
And I hope the Ravens have one more victory in Cincinnati this weekend. Robert Canady, Buckets and Birds. Find them at compasspointgolf.com as well as their turkey shoot on the 29th. And, of course, we are the partner with Coppin State. Juan Dixon and the gang. And losing a rider, we had that broadcast on Tuesday night there at Virginia Tech on Friday, at Loyola, Illinois, Chicago next week, and on the road most of the month, Northern Illinois, Northern Kentucky. You can hear those games at WNST.net and here at AM 1570. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.